I recently watched Tomo-chan is a Girl, and I thought it was actually pretty good. I mentioned in my last anime review that I posted last week, I think it was, about My Dress Up Darling, and I mentioned how I don't really watch romance anime, so it's kind of ironic this second thing that I watched for the next week in a row was another romance anime, but it just sort of kind of happened. I saw like a couple of clips of an abridged style video on YouTube Shorts. At least I'm pretty sure they were abridged because they didn't say anything that was remotely close to what they said in the actual episodes, and it just sort of kind of came up on my radar, so I decided to go ahead and look into it a little bit, and I realized that Tomo-chan is a Girl is actually a new anime that came out earlier this year in like January, and I just was like, well, it's like 13 episodes, and I'm already kind of like in like this sort of like romance anime craze, and it's, you know, it's short, so I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and decide to watch it, and I did, and I finished it last night, and yeah, I actually thought it was pretty good. So I realized with this, it's like there's a lot of anime that's sort of like this, you know, there are a lot of similarities between this show and other shows exactly like this. And what I liked about My Dress Up Darling was that it sort of kind of decided to do a different like take on it. It decided to do an entirely different spin on like the typical romance anime. Tomo-chan kind of did something very similar, but you know, and the end result that I came up with as I was watching the show is that it just needed to be a really fun show to watch. It's just an interesting show that's super slice of life, that has really comedic moments of hilarity because it's over the top, and it was just interesting and fun to watch. It was fun watching the characters bounce off of one another with their personalities, and that was ultimately the end result that I got with the show. And I just ended up really enjoying it just because I wanted to see the interactions between the two characters who are the main leads. The show centers around Tomo Aizawa, and it's the fact that she's a tomboy girl who's trying to act more girly because her best friend told her so, that maybe the guy that she really likes would probably be more interested in her if she acted more girly instead of acting more boyish. Meanwhile, the entire time, the guy that she really likes, Junichiro, I think his name is actually, the entire time, the whole point of the show of what he's trying to do is he's trying to really understand his feelings for Tomo. He doesn't really understand how he feels about her and how he perceives her, because the entire time he sort of just treats her like she's a boy, and for the majority of their childhood he actually thought that she was a boy, but it wasn't revealed until they got into middle school that she was actually a girl. So he's very conflicted with his emotions about her, and he doesn't really know like what to do or how to act around her, but he mostly kind of ends up treating her like one of the boys, essentially, right? They kind of get into like scuffles every now and then, they get into fights. Again, she acts very like boyish because she is very much a tomboy. I kind of like feel like that was like the main thing that kind of like gripped me about the show, was the fact that the main girl was a tomboy, and I'm kind of partial to tomboy-esque girls in anime just because I like the way that they portray the tom girls in anime. They are what they are, they act the way that they do, and you know, I like seeing the contrast of them acting like the way that they do in their normal lives, but then every now and then they act like in a really like girly way, and the sudden like the dichotomy of that is what makes it really interesting to watch, and I think that's the reason why I really ended up really enjoying the show. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to say, you know, just watching the characters try to, you know, basically get their feelings across one another, and seeing, you know, the friends around them sort of try to help in the situation of trying to get the two to get together, and trying to make Junichiro to like understand that, you know, she does have feelings for him and that she does love him. And then eventually towards the end of the show, when he finally realizes that he also does love her as well, it was just super sweet. It was just super wholesome. And, you know, it was just also a really fun show to watch. And I think, end of the day, that's just sort of what romance anime is supposed to be. And I think I realized that I just really like romance comedy, because the comedy kind of breaks up the dichotomy of all the, like, the downer moments. That is to say that you can't have a romance story where the actual story and the characters themselves are what drive the plot forward. Because in most romance anime, the plot of the two characters trying to confess their feelings to one another is what's always going to be driving the story forward. And the same thing happens in romance comedy as well. But the comedy kind of subjugates and alleviates a lot of the really downer moments of a lot of things not really end up happening. So in probably like a Shinkai film, there are always going to be moments where the characters are kind of just like by themselves thinking about the person that they really like, and they're having an internalized monologue towards themselves, and sometimes they're speaking towards the audience of what they're thinking and what they want to say towards the other person, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just keep it towards themselves, and we have to interpret what it is they're thinking and what it is that they want to say to the other person. Comedy kind of subjugates that. It keeps the forward momentum momentum going with the comedy that it decides to implement into the story. And in my opinion, it just ends up making for a more enjoyable experience. And I think that's something that I actually ended up really enjoying about these past 2 anime that I've watched over the past couple of weeks, that even though there's nothing going on, you know, at least there's something entertaining actually happening. And that's where the comedy comes in. And then when it decides to go into like the more romance aspect of the show, it's actually super gripping. It's super entertaining, and you get really drawn into the characters and into the world itself, and you want to see what ends up happening between the 2 characters. In the same sense, Tomo-chan as a girl actually kind of ends up doing the same thing, and it was a fun show. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that I decided to give this one a chance. You know, it kind of just came out of nowhere, and I didn't really know what to expect, but I gave it a chance. I watched it, I enjoyed it, and yeah, I would actually kind of recommend the show to anybody who's kind of like not really into romance anime or romance genre in any way whatsoever. This was a lot of fun, right? And I think the comedy kind of sells the enjoyment of me actually watching it. I feel like a lot of people would actually really enjoy it as well. The show was definitely really funny. I really enjoyed a lot of like specific comedic moments that end up happening, especially because of the way that certain characters are. Like there's one episode where they're doing the school festival play, and they have this one girl who's like super like cold and serious towards people, but they have her portraying the character of Cinderella in the play Cinderella. And the reason why it's funny is because her character wouldn't do that. And she's very upset that she is the one that's doing that. But it makes sense for narrative, character-related reasons as to why she ends up doing it anyways. Because there's conflict between her and her best friend, which is the main female lead of the show, Tomo. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about the show. I just ended up really enjoying it, gave it a chance, you know, and I guess this is what ends up happening. What I'm going to end up watching next, though, it's an entirely different genre whatsoever. I think it's animated by the same animation studio who made JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I'm interested to see what's going to end up happening. I'll probably tease it with some editing in the video for those of you who are curious of what it is I'm going to be watching. I've heard a couple of things about it. I've seen some of the characters who are from this show, and there are a couple of things that have been pointed out to me that made me really interested in watching. And no, it's not anime boobies. It's actually something else entirely. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what's gonna happen with the next show that I watch. Will I make a video about it? Probably. There's 2 seasons, and I think there's only like 20-ish something episodes total. I don't know if that's per season or total, like, or something, so there's like 12 episodes each. Anyways, if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more, please be sure to subscribe. Let me know what anime I should watch down below in the comments. I'd be really interested to see what else I should watch, and maybe I'll make a video talking about it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next one. I'm out. Peace.